Welcome to the podcast of All Means All. In this episode, Heidrun Demo, Valerio Ferrero, Veronica Punzo, and Rosa Ferdigg will talk about quality development for inclusive and equitable education on school level.
Our topic was the quality development of inclusive and equitable education. And the first question we discussed about was, what do we mean with quality of inclusive and equitable education?
Well, we choose this expression with reference to 2030 agenda, in which goal 4 is quality education. And in its formulation, it is said that the goal is to develop equitable and inclusive education for all. So the reference to equity is very important because it lets us to pay attention not only to disability or migration background, but we need to have an intersectional gaze and so pay attention to all diversities and all uniqueness that our students have. So equity, inclusion are also a method in quality development because the participation is very important and quality is isn't configured as standards, but is a process based on each context and each student's needs.
Yeah, the idea is that inclusion is understood as a process where we try to constantly increase the presence of all students in schools, but also the quality of what they achieve, what they learn, and their quality in participation. So it's really a broad understanding of inclusion. And it's an understanding that takes a distance from narrow understanding, like that only have a focus on students with disabilities. What is also important for us is that we understand inclusion in a systemic way. So inclusion and the development of inclusion cannot be a linear process. It's a more complex process. And if we look at it at the level of schools, as we are trying to do in this contribution, then we see several levels that are involved. The level of the individual teachers, but then also the level of classes, the level of schools, and we also consider schools to be part of a society, of a bigger school system. In this sense, there is always an interaction among these different levels. And now to come to the aspect of quality, development of quality, here we take a reference to the Index for Inclusion. That is a tool that was published for the first time at the beginning of the 2000s. And it was published by Booth and ENSCO. And it was a work thought for support schools in the development of inclusion. And it also embraces this broad idea of inclusion and systemic idea of inclusion. And it offers us really a set of indicators that describe how the quality of inclusion looks like in everyday life in schools, in institutions that work in the field of education. And what is interesting here is that we have a clear structure for these indicators. We have indicators related to the dimension of cultures, And here all the indicators are contained that refer to values that the school embraces and relationships, how are relationships constructed. Then we have a second dimension, that is the dimension related to policies, and here we have the indicators that describe how an inclusive school is organized. And then we have a third dimension where all the indicators are collected that describe how teaching and learning, normally at the level of class, is organized.
So to summarize, you could say we are referring to a broad understanding of inclusion and equity, led by a democratic view of school and school development. And also we have to take into account that the complexity of this process needs instruments, and a good instrument for improving quality and even evaluating the quality of the inclusive and equitable education on a school could be the index of inclusion, a well-known instrument and a broad used instrument. Yes, and we could close up this way and look which other questions we had.
Exactly. So a second issue that could be interesting is the one that tries to address more precisely which are the processes that sustain the quality development of inclusive and equitable education.
Thank you for the question. The quality development of inclusive and equitable education should pay attention to build consensus around inclusive and democratic value. And a framework that can help us in this dialogue about inclusion is the Index for Inclusion that imposes on all actors within schools to reflect and to have an approach based on reflection, research for solution on participatory change. A reflective process means that all actors within school spend time reflecting about what they want to achieve, finding positive changes and planning action to achieve them. And a reflective process goes hand in hand with a pedagogical research for solution to overcome barriers for an inclusive and equitable development of education. And a reflection is also a participatory process such as, for example, in the evaluating process, isn't it?
Yes, and the evaluating process could be one of the processes to monitor the achievement, the goal achievement of this process. And basically is to say that the evaluation process can start in different places and in different ways. We know the external evaluation, who usually is mandatory for the schools and is set from outside actors. And on the other side, we pointed out more the internal evaluation, who always is to thinking integrated to the external evaluation, but in the internal evaluation, schools have more space, more freedom to choose the topics they want to evaluate, to choose the methods, to choose the target groups, and so on. And to be a little bit more concrete, is very important to follow a structure in the evaluation process, and some steps of this process are very important, such as choosing the topic in a participated way, to look with the whole school community. What is the topic we want to evaluate? We want to know more about the quality of that. Then to have even a professional group inside the school, or to in-charge someone to work out the methodologies, to search the right target group. It depends from the topic. And then finally collect the data and present the data in the whole school community. And this step is very important, and it's very important to have it together, to interpret the data, and then together to find ways to change something, or in consequence of the results. And then to carry out these measures, to plan and to carry out the measures, and after a time to evaluate another time the measures in a meaning of quality circle. And that is a permanent process that can be on for a time. And as I said, the participatory dimension is a key point in these processes.
Yes, it is, because all actors within schools are called to collaborate together for inclusive paths. And a good aspect of a participatory process is that it returns the one's effectiveness in a construction of a common path. And he also creates an open space to feel comfortable, to share opinions, share ideas, and it is also useful to prevent within schools conflicts and frustration of feel forced to adaptation to a status quo about habits on educational design.
Thank you for this rich answer. And if I now can try to summarize a bit, I think we can identify two main processes that sustain the development of quality. On one side, reflection combined with evaluation. Here it's about to understand what is working less in our school. And this is always understood in a formative manner, so combined with the idea that then we want to plan for change. And this is the second important process. And what is common in the two processes, and this was mentioned also by Valerio at the very beginning, is that inclusion is also a method. So you try to organize these processes in a participative manner, both the evaluation part, having many actors taking part to it, and in the plan for change, where you want many persons to be active and really to express their ideas about change.
So, moving to the third question, we are now talking about the actors in schools. Actors in this process for quality development of inclusion and equity in education. So move now and talk about teachers. So what is the teacher's role in the quality development for inclusive and equitable education?
Yes, that's a key question. And we reached to the agreement that the role of the teacher is a very key role. Teachers are, and we mean not only teachers, we mean the adult professionals working in an inclusive context, and are the main important models related to attitude towards diversity, towards inclusion, and towards equity for the learners. And that because they spend lots of time together and they develop a very close relationship. So it is so that in the class, in the lesson, there are the dynamics where learners, pupils or young people can experience real inclusion, real equity, or even the opposite of it. And that is to say in advance. And then it is to say that we can look at this role at different levels, Valerio.
Yeah, thank you. The first level is the individual one. So teachers should be aware about their own attitudes, beliefs, and their own habitus. There is an influence by background whose they has to be conscious to enter the classroom and be equitable teacher. So it is a reflective work, and teachers have to think about the match between their habitus and the school culture. This reflective work sustain the development of new skills and make them conscious about blind spots on which they can work and develop new skills. Participation return because it is a very important part of this work. So reflection can help them to have an active role in the school community, and in the next level, that is the collegial relationship level.
Exactly. Out from the individual space, teachers and other professionals in school used to work together in different formations as a subject working group or as team in a class, a multi-professional team, and so on. And even there are some requirements for productive work and for creating a really inclusive culture. And it's surely needed that the teachers in teams even, but even individual, are taking into account and are expecting diversity among the learners, but even among the colleagues. And that is another point, even in this relationship, collegial relationship level, that can reinforce and can support the work, or can even not support the work. And some crucial skills are about the view, the position on diversity, on the both levels, on the learners and even on the teacher colleagues. A kind of flexibility, curiosity, openness for new solutions, for teamwork, are required to make effectful work, we can say. And for improving systematically the quality, the situations where the daily praxis can be reflected, can be analyzed from the teachers themselves, collectively or in cooperative forms, and even where they can find free-minded solutions, new solutions, are very helpful to improve the quality. And outside of these micro dimensions we described until now, there is the school dimension, the school level, and Valerio will say something.
The school level is about school governance, and we have to introduce the concept of distributed leadership and the ethical leadership, because inclusion, equity, social justice aren't neutral concepts. So we need a work of co-construction of meanings by all the actors that are part of school community. The ethic dimension is also important for the participatory nature of this process, as we have already said. We have a middle management with teachers who have specific responsibility, and this organization through middle management can support the sharing of practices of elaboration of school policies, so there is a link between teachers and school leader, properly through these teachers who are engaged in these responsibilities.
Okay, thank you. So if I can resume what we said, surely teachers are the key models for students to experiment inclusion and equity in education, and teachers' role can be setting on more levels. First of all, there is an individual level where teachers can develop, reflect of course, and then develop their personal attitudes. In second, there is a collegial relationship level where teachers can reflect and work in smaller group in a cooperative form, of course. And there is also a school level where teachers have the space to participate in the school management and have a strong connection also with the school leadership.
Thank you. And we move our focus on students who are crucial actors in school. So how do students participate in the quality development of inclusive and equitable education?
The student's role is as important as the teacher's one, so it's really a very important question for us. But at the beginning, it's important to be clear about the fact that students and teachers do not have the same power in schools. So we are in front of an asymmetric relationship, and this needs to be considered because it means that participation for students is only possible if teachers create a space for this participation, and it is the teacher's duty, the teacher's task to do that. This also implies some risks because it's something about sharing power, and it can also lead to manipulation of student voices. It can lead to using these voices in a decorative manner, so not really listening to them, but just showing we are listening to them. And we think that if student voice should really contribute to quality development, then it is important to ensure a real participation, a full participation. And we think it can happen at least two levels, from two perspectives. The first one is about students being experts about the way they learn. And so they can give really expert feedback on the way teaching and learning is organized in schools. And this is certainly worthy for themselves, because this is a way how they can develop learning strategies. But this is very worthy also for the development of the quality of teaching. So it becomes an evidence, it becomes data for the teachers to improve their own teaching. If students are asked to self-evaluate the reached skills and goals, if students are asked to evaluate the way teaching was organized, then the teachers get back information on the fact if they were or not able really to reach everybody. And this is crucial in order to develop a way of organizing a learning landscapes where this happens more and more and in a better way. But it's not only this, students can become even more, even a more precious resource if we think of them in terms of co-researchers together with teachers.
Yes, there is an example of this. For example, if we talk about inclusive inquiry approach, that is an approach in which students and teachers, of course, can collaborate to create an inclusive lesson. It's about create small work groups composing by both students and teachers that act together to plan a lesson. Then teacher conducts, and after the lesson there is a reflection, a joint reflection in the work group by teacher and students, and also the planning of the next lesson in order to reflect about what was good and what was not good, to overcome barriers and to be sure to work in order to achieve a real inclusive and equitable lesson, so teaching education.
So thank you, and we can say that between teachers and students there is an asymmetric relationship, and it is important to ensure spaces of free expression to students and create spaces of sharing so that they can give a feedback about teaching and learning processes, and properly this feedback can sustain teachers to reorient their teaching action. And about the methods, we talk about inclusive inquiry approach, in which teachers and students are co-researchers, and they want to improve the school and the way of teaching.
So we focused a lot on teachers and on students now, and before we spoke about the complexity of a school. So there are sure more actors that play a role in developing quality. And who are these other actors?
Yes, teachers play a crucial role, but because of the systemic nature of this process, we have to talk about other actors. So school leader has an important role. We have already said that he must be an ethic leader. He should share responsibility properly in order to sustain the participation of all. Then we have to talk about parents who live school experience thanks to their children. Families can have different ideas about inclusion, about equity, also because they have different socio-cultural and socio-economic backgrounds. So there can be difficulties or conflicts, and it isn't easy to manage these dynamics. So we can say that educational co-responsibility also at institutional level is important, and school and family have a specific role, and neither school or family have to overcome their own role. There are other actors.
Yeah, for example, and here we are changing a bit the perspective, universities can become actors in these processes. It's more here about being a support for schools in methodological aspects. So university can offer researchers, but this will only work if university and school share an idea of research, that is an idea that very much refers to the family of approaches connected with action research, where the development of theories and practices grow together, and where it's very clear that researchers do research with schools and not on schools. And in this case, this collaboration can be very beneficial. There are also other partners we could mention: health system, social services, the municipalities, but we will not go deeper into that now.
Fine, so we have seen that it's not enough to focus on students and on teachers to understand the complexity of the school, but in a systemic approach we have to take in account the other rules and the other actors in the context, and to point out one of surely important rule is the rule of the school master or of the principal, who has more power in the context, it's to say, but on the other side, even the parents and other actors that are outside from the school but cooperate with school and can bring more ideas and even support to the schools. At the same time, the more partners we have and the more actors we have, the more heterogeneity we have and variety, and that could even bring challenges and conflicts and the need of a lot of communication and of cooperation. But with a view on the democratic development and democratic processes, it's possible to go on and to continue on this way, developing a really inclusive and equitable education.
Thank you for listening to the podcast of All Means All. In the show notes, there is a link to the chapter in the open textbook. There you can find the transcript of the video and more information on the topic.